Well, I don't know if most of you guys this happened to you, but someone asks for something or like asks for an advice, and then you give it to them. But when that situation happens to you, you don't do the advice or the same advice that you told someone else. Well, here's a quote from Tynan. It says, "A critic is a man who knows the way, but can't drive a car." Well, there's many situations where this happens to me, like my father. He wasn't really there for me, but when he would like always tell me, it's like, oh, don't do that, don't do this. But like, he doesn't take his own advice either. But like when he was telling me how to hook up a trailer to a truck, he pretty much told me how to do it. You get the trailer, you push it onto the hitch of a truck, then you wrap it up, and then you double check everything to see if it's all hooked up correctly, and then you just go on your way. But this one time, he didn't really hook it up correctly, and then when he was driving, the trailer unhooked and flipped over and caused a big mess. So like learning from his experience, I always double or triple check every time I hook up a trailer, just so that doesn't happen to me. Another example is when I started to play rugby. Since I didn't really know too much about it, I'd always look to the other guys who have experience. But many times, like when they told me, oh yeah, don't pass the ball when there isn't a pass there, or like when the defender is too close to you. But like many of them, since they get like most of the time when there's a bigger guy, they get scared that they don't want to get it hit, so they would always pass it. And due to that, they always give bad pass. There's either a turnover, or it's a bad pass, and the person they pass it to gets injured because of the way that they didn't follow their own advice. And this also has happened to me multiple times. It's like when my friend, he argues with his dad, or like he gets in trouble by his dad, and like they're pretty much off, like not off on the wrong side or something. They would always ask me, it's like, oh, how can I make everything better, or like get situated with my dad? Then like I tell him stuff like that, like, oh, you should do this, and just like listen to what he says. But then since my dad wasn't really there for me, when I get in the same situation, I'd always turn the other cheek, never listen to him. And so like after I realized that like what happened, I kind of feel guilty and like not really feel good about myself, because I didn't really do my advice that I gave him. So the quote, "A critic is a man who knows the way but can't drive a car," pretty much happens to the best of us, even though we don't admit that we do it, or we don't really realize it. Thanks.
It's yours. You keep that.
Yeah, souvenir of the day.
Good job.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it. I don't really understand it.
Because a guy who's like someone who's cynical, someone who sees like the worst in every situation, and always in people, assumes the worst in people. So maybe he smells flowers, which are normally something good. Good for confidence. You know, you confident instead of looking for a garden or something like that.
Makes sense.
All right, well, the hypothetical example at the beginning's okay. It would have been helpful if you had something that was particular, even if it's a hypothetical, something with a little detail to make it more interesting, but you identify what the topic is. I get the general impression that you're agreeing with the quote. I do think that you need to set up a plan for the presentation a little bit more, because it just seems like you've got some examples that you're going to go with, and they are randomly coming to you. So instead of it sounding like it's a structured and thought out goal that you're approaching, it's more like, well, I'm going to run from point to point or idea to idea. You've got a couple of good ideas, though. I think the first one works pretty well, and then the one with your friend seems a little bit repetitive, and it feels like you kind of go off on a tangent at some point, and you try and pull it back to the point as you get to the end of that example, which I appreciated, but it did feel like we were off tangent on something else for a while you were discussing that. Presentation issues, you're loud and clear, that's fine. There's pretty good variety in your voice. There are a couple of descriptive gestures as you go along, but there are also some problems there. Your facial expressions are fine. Your eye contact is actually pretty solid with the audience most of the time. Now, there are 3 or 4 things that are problematic about the presentation. First of all, you've got nervous feet. You can't hold still, and you're constantly moving kind of in the circle-ish sort of spot there, and it looks like you just, that's where most of your anxiety is coming out. But it's not all of your anxiety, because one of the other places that your anxiety is coming out is in your hands. You've got this nervous finger pulling thing that you do. You know, it's like I'm counting my fingers. There's one, the third, oh, that one's not there anymore. So it seems repetitive, and it really feels, because you do have some gestures while you're speaking during the presentation that are good descriptive kinds of things, but then you go right back to that sort of crutch that you're holding on to. And if you can avoid the crutch, I think that's a good idea. You're also standing as far back as you possibly can. You probably felt the lanyard hit you in the back of the head a couple of times. That's like that's maybe an indicator, like the garage door. Do you guys have one of those things in the garage? You know, tell you how far you're going into the garage. You know, that's kind of where you were. It's telling you can't go back any further. That's probably an indication of anxiety too. You could step forward and be a little bit more effective there. Lose the hat while you're giving the speech also. All right. Thank you.
I wanted to look professional. My hair didn't.
I'm not sure the hat helps, but it's okay. You know, think about it in the future. We do have another major presentation coming up, so we want you to be very thoughtful about that. Okay. Sella's going to get us set up here, but Andre is also going to be doing a speech, and he does not have the evaluation form for the assignment. Does somebody have a copy of the...
It's not the informative one?
No.
Impromptu.
Nope, it's not the impromptu one. It says prepared delivery evaluation form on it. So if somebody gave an impromptu speech and they printed the packet and they have that extra evaluation form, like that would be great. Put your name on this. Thank you very much. And you can give it to me in a minute. Isela is going to be next, though. Oh, I got all of that on.